Great, guys. So I'll quickly introduce myself. So I'm Devendra, IIT Bombay LM from O1 to O5, Postal 5. Uh, in terms of professional background, I run Dexter Capital. Dexter advises companies, startups in terms of fundraisers. We have done 35 plus transaction. Series A, Series B, Series C is primary forte as of now, or primary focus. We have done earlier. We have done like seed, pre-series as well. Understand entire tech ecosystem, venture ecosystem, investor ecosystem pretty well. And ESOP given it get discussed ample time, so understand that also pretty well from multiple party perspective. Multiple party, I'll define three: founders, employees, and investors. So there are different perspective from each of them. Happy to talk about those. I also wear the head of entrepreneur as an operational startup, which is Insta Office. I'm a co-founder there. There also we go through the same challenges that every entrepreneur here that goes through. Apart from them, I also run a small angel network, Dexter Angel. The way Dexter Angel work is, if let's say there's a person Tushar who runs it. If he like a company, then we take it to a very selected network of 70, 80 investors. And once we like, they also have to like. So it is a double weighting process. And if they also like, then sort of let's say we can go ahead and invest. Typically prefer to come through a single entity structure, which is facilitated by either AngelList or Let's Venture. But sometimes there is a little bit of hassle either for investor in that sense, and in that case we may have to come directly as well. So that's basically the background about me. I also have Rohit with us. Rohit is a chartered accountant and company secretary, and someone I know now, I would say 4 years, and someone who is a CA par excellence. He has recently formed a firm, Daksh Partners, to help entrepreneur. He has Rohit's, I think, whichever entrepreneur he has advised, people have been pretty happy with the work, and he has done entire work from like ESOP, etc., execution work, actual execution done, and he has been associated with Series A, Series B, Series C companies. Rohit, why don't you quickly probably take a minute to give your quick intro as well?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Devin. So, hello everyone. So, we are a team of chartered accountants and company secretary professionals, and we advise mainly startups from seed round till Series C, D. Whatever compliances are there in terms of your secretarial or tax, regulatory, FEMA related, RBI related, we take care of all those things because we mainly deal with startups. We understand the hurdles a promoter faces from the starting point, and we understand that at the inception level, it's not practically possible to take experts from several fields. So we focus on providing a overall service portal at a centralized level. So whatever your queries are there, whatever points are there, we can address it and help you go through various series and grow the company.
Great. So
And, just to add before Dev begins, apart from whatever Dev told about himself, I have I've got the fortune to work with Devendra as an investment banker, as a partner in Dexter Capital, just before co-founding Venex. And I think the one sentence that I can say about Devendra and Dexter Capital is that they are perhaps the most founder-friendly investment bank that is available in the country. So absolutely, they're completely on the side of the entrepreneur, and very, very founder-friendly in terms of the advice they give, and not just about the deal marketing part of it or taking it to investors, but in the term negotiation, especially, right? So that's with that. Let me thank Dev for being here and thank Rohit for being here, and hand it over to and a brief introduction about myself. Been a serial entrepreneur, 1997 batch, IIT Bombay, Hostel 9. Anybody from Hostel 9 here? All right. So yeah, been in the IT slash products industry always, abroad and for the past about 17 to 20 years here in India. have also got the opportunity to work with corporates in senior leadership positions and with other high growth ventures. So I've been on the side of being an employee with ventures, as well as on the other side of having employed people for my ventures or for the company that I work with. So, based on those learnings that Pooja and I have had, is where we have designed Venex. Excited to be sharing about that with you in the second session. But before that, we hand it over to Devendra for talking about ESOPs. Dave?
Sure. So actually, guys, I not structured any sort of presentation or let's say in a particular sort of way. My request is it would be nice to have maybe just 2-3 minute key questions people have in their mind, because I think I have probably like 30 minutes and I can tailor my sort of responses according to that and try to have like 2-3 things which I have in mind from the ESOP perspective, and I'll take help of Rohit wherever is required on technical aspects. So if there are people have questions, please feel free to just let me know the questions, and I can try to structure it more aligned to those questions in some sense. If anybody has any question first, like the broad question, any question ki we are an early stage company, we are getting a person, what equity to give, whatever question you guys have, please feel free to shoot. Otherwise, I'll take you quickly through my thoughts.
Yeah, Devendra. So, few standard question: what is the right time to set up the ESOP? What is the procedure? Giving equity at the time of investment. So, generally, how is the procedure is done, and the terms and condition of the regarding vesting, and the fourth item can be someone like people who are already working beforehand, before we even set up the ESOPs, say maybe a year before we set up the ESOP, how to account for their contribution into the ESOP part. So these are the general four broad questions that I have in mind.
Great. Any other question?
One question I have is that like how do you structure your ESOP scheme, and how could it be utilized in terms of aligning with the, so it has more to do with the compensation part. So as people grow, how could ESOPs be used to motivate people with like timely milestones, etc.?
Perfect. Okay. Okay. Any other question? Otherwise, I'll get started. So there are multiple things to cover. Okay, and I'll try to cover those things step by step. So first, I think the first question was asked by Tushar, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Great. So I think right time to set up ESOP. You don't need to. What I've seen in at least in the India, the ESOP is typically set when you raise first external round, and it's a very standard term in every investor, whether it's angel investor, as long as they're a professional angel investor, not like friends and family, or a VC investor or a seed investor. They term that there should be ESOP. So typically, what I have seen based on my practical experiences, whenever a founder is raising capital, that time first formal discussion ESOP happen, and that the time it's sort of, let's say, I would not say formalized, but that's where it gets agreed. And I think one thing that gets agreed at that time is what is the ESOP pool. ESOP pool is basically you allocate certain percentage of your cap table. It could be 5%, it could be 7.5%, it could be 10%, it could be higher as well, as ESOP, which is reserved for giving ESOPs to your current or prospective employees. Okay. So now to answer your question, Tushar, obviously you can set up ESOP only once you have formed your legal entity, which is your company. And after forming the legal entity, you can set up your ESOP pool per se anytime. You don't need to wait for your Series A round to happen. You can literally form it anytime, like literally next day after forming the company, or within 3 months or within 6 months. If let's say company is doing well, company is not raising capital, The ESOP discussion would come when you're hiring an employee, right? If you're hiring a pretty senior employee, or you're hiring a co-founder or a head of a person, the ESOP discussion would come. And even then discussion can be taken care by promising something, which are sometimes becomes verbal promises or written promises through email or written promises through offer. Even that time is a right time to formalize their policy. That's where we have Rohit. So from formation of policy or formation of the ESOP pool, you can do that. There are two ways it is done. One way, you just create a pool on the cap table. That's one. Where basically you say that, hey, I have X% of the pool on the cap table, which is 7%, 10%, 12%, 15%, which means everyone the cap table, which is current shareholders and prospective shareholder, know that there are certain shares which are allocated for ESOP. Please be mindful, these shares are not created. There's a pool that has been created to ensure there's no dilution impact to an incoming investor by issuance of those shares, but those shares are not created. Government of India or company law allows those ESOP to be created whenever company wants to create at whatever share price, without getting into companies at difficulty on valuation ground or income tax act difficulty, even if it done like face value, etc. So, and that's the most popular and sort of favorite method for most companies, including nearly most investors. You just say, hey, in my cap table, I have 10% ESOP pool. You don't formally create it. This pool typically is called board administered. So any ESOP kind of thing, it can be done with the approval of board. A person, management sort of, let's say, cannot decide without approval of board. A management, which is board member, obviously can decide, but they still need to execute a board resolution in terms of what ESOP, etc. I'll come to that when you define ESOP pool, what other things needs to be defined. The other way to do that is create ESOP trust. Creating a trust is a little bit more complex, and once company reaches to certain stage, Series B, Series C, Series D, that time creating a trust may be recommended, because the number of people who are having ESOP, etc., become a little large, and it's better to have a trust structure to, let's say, have that. Creation of trust is a little bit more complex, because you need to create a trust, you need to have trustees, you need to have policies. Trust needs to be a little independent of the company. Whatever ESOPs may need to be created, they may need to be created in terms of those actual number of shares, etc. So even it can be done via that as well. Now, whenever you create any ESOP pool, and this is a little bit of, you can say, technical sort of thing, and I'll let any question answered by Rohit. There are very basic 3 elements which you would often hear. If you have been part of a company, you would have heard that whenever you would have gotten ESOP, or as a founder, you also need to be mindful of these 3 things. So one is price, or the what kind of price the ESOP is at, right? So there are 3 terminology. One is grant, second is vesting, and third is exercise. Grant is when you say, hey, I am giving so many ESOPs to a person. That is called grant. So as and when you agree to give ESOP, and any grant would be effective from a particular date, that becomes your sort of, let's say, time when you're granting those ESOPs to a particular employee. Second is basically vesting. So any ESOP policy would always have a vesting schedule. The vesting schedule, typically what is more popular is 4 years, and it can be tailored. I'll come to that as well. But vesting schedule can be different as well. It could be 3, it could be higher as well. Again, technicalities, I'll let Rohit address that. Is that it can be 5 year, it can be 7 year, it can be 10 year. That I'll let Rohit from the company law perspective. And third is the exercise. So once you grant the shares, let's say if there's a 4-year vesting, equal vesting with a 1-year cliff. So after 1 year, the person would have a claim on those shares if he has completed 1 year of service. And that means those shares are vested, which means that employee has a right to exercise them. The exercise is again a policy driven thing. You can define when the person wants to exercise. In exercise, there are 2 elements: when employee is in continuous employment of the company, or when employee has left the company. In both the cases, again, how it happens would get determined by the company's policy. And only when the employee exercises, at that time, shares will be issued and given to the company. Till that, it's an option. These are not actual shares. Once the person exercises, At that time, those shares gets created and given hand of the person. In exercise, there is always an exercise price involved, and that's a very important thing that needs to be understood. So let's say a company's valuation per share is 10,000 rupee, and let's say exercise price is 1,000 rupee, and let's say somebody were given uh, let's take 1,000 shares, right? So 10 lakh rupee worth of shares they were given vested over 4 years, which means the person were given 2.5 lakh rupee shares being vested over 4 years. So whenever the person's shares would vest, which is like 250 shares would vest after 1 year, person can exercise those shares. That means the person needs to pay to the company, which is 250 into 1,000 rupee, which would be what I think 2.5 lakh rupee to the company to get hold of those 250 shares. Employee, this is very important thing that needs to be kept in mind, and this is, I'm not too sure how many people are from employee perspective. What is often not realized that it will also result into a taxation event for an employee. So whatever is the FME of the company determined by whatever last round, or in case there is any latest FME of the company at that time, whatever is FMV minus exercise price becomes employee's gain in that particular year, and company is liable to deduct a TDS, which means the employee has illiquid shares in his hand. Whether they will yield some value or not yield some value, that's a separate thing. But there is a real tax event, which either it's a liability of employee, but given the way government of India does it, whatever liability of employee, they get it from company, right? So company has a liability of TDS, which is often not looked by both founders as well as employees, and sometimes it yields to later on a little bit unpleasant experience कि यार ESOP मिला भी मैं exercise भी नहीं कर सकता. It's more like that. So that's one thing, something that needs to be kept in mind. In terms of few challenges here, which I have seen quite often, let me go through some practical challenges which we have come across whenever we advise founder. So होता क्या है कि हमने कंपनी बनाई, कंपनी में जैसे somebody said that people were working and they were promised ESOP कि यार तेरी सैलरी 15 लाख रुपए है and we are giving you 15 lakh rupee ESOP. No other thing have been discussed, exercise price have been not discussed. And assumption is that whenever the employee has joined from that date, or whenever the ESOP discussion happened from that date, ESOPs were granted, right? The problem is the grant date cannot happen prior to, and again, I am not an expert, Rohit, correct me if I'm wrong somewhere. The grant date needs to happen from the ESOP policy date. ESOP policy needs to be formed. Now, what happens is in some companies, things can happen in backdate, some companies cannot happen. Because you also need to, this is a company act related thing, government related stuff. You also need to make filing, etc. To the basic ROC, right? Now, if you have made a commitment and your commitment is getting questioned because there has to be policy needs to be formed, which as a company you did not form because you were not even knowledgeable. So those becomes challenge. So Rohit, why don't you touch upon this thing? That if this kind of practical founder ने company बना ली, employees को ESOP offer कर दिया, but ESOP policy नहीं बनाई, how do they address that?
See, primarily you should understand that whatever offer we have given to our employees is an informal communication until unless the company has a specific ESOP policy under which the grants have been given. So in case the company has given offer letters to the employees that we'll be giving you so much of ESOPs at a later date, so that remains informal till the time you actually implement that policy. Now, to implement that policy, you need to have passed a board resolution and an ordinary shareholders resolution, which we usually file at the ROC level to create the ESOP pool and adopt the ESOP policy. Once this step is done, then the company is good to go and issue the ESOPs, which shall be recorded by the company in its books itself. Until that time, it's continue to be an informal communication only. So it's important that we adopt the ESOP policy as soon as we plan to give it to some employees by way of engagement letters itself.
Thanks, Rohit. So we have seen this thing in early stage of company that when we ask founder क्या ESOP pool है, founder will tell कि ESOP pool है. We'll ask कि founder क्या ESOP दे दिए, बोला हाँ ESOP इतने लोगों को इतने इतने दिए हुए हैं. But there's no formal communication, which means whatever the communication, let's say in some sense that's a null and void. There is a way to correct that. And once you create an ESOP, from grant date, the next date would be vesting date. Whenever the vesting happen, even your books of account, which is your audited account, need to recognize an ESOP expense in your book. So what we see that company has been provided grant, employee has been, there's no ESOP policy, there has not been ESOP pool created, and there's no recognition of expense on the books, right? And if you go through a DD of a big four, or if you go through a DD of a large fund, the challenge will come. The challenge is a little small, because assuming that the whatever fund is cooperative, you can always try to fix those during the stage, or what we try to get somebody like Rohit who can do a pre-DD and try to fix those issues in this thing. But please be mindful, any commitment. So the learning here is, if you're making any commitment, ESOP is a more of government sort of related matter. You need to make certain filings. If you are making commitment, that commitment from you as a founder is only and only valid as long as you are doing necessary activity at the back end, which is board meeting, forming an ESOP policy, determining the terms of ESOP policy, etc. Those are effective. So that's more on the terms. Now I'll come to more on practical aspects of the ESOP. Okay, which is what stage of the company typically companies set up ESOPs. What if companies hiring an early employee, what sort of quantum, etc. could be there. What should be ESOP, right? ESOP pool, those kind of things. If you are hiring a very, very senior guy, somebody who is like very, very expensive, 1 crore, 2 crore, 3 crore guy, and you are trying to give ESOP, how do you address that situation? So I'll try to cover those points now, but I'll take a 1 minute pause here and feel free to ask any question that you guys have for me or Rohit on more technicalities of ESOPs. Any questions?
Devendra, I have one thing to ask.
Sure.
So you mentioned backdating is not possible, but it is possible to sort of accelerate the vesting period, right? Initially for some part of the shares in order to take care of the commitment. For example, if I had formed so I had promised some one of the employee like a year back that he'll be giving, he'll get some ESOP, and since the company was not formed, and now in order to sort of give him the ESOP, we can sort of put a clause where within a month he will get say 25% of the ESOP, which corresponds to 1 year of his job which he has contributed to.
Rohit, you want to take it? I can take it, but it's better that you take it because it's related to policy, and a policy needs to be identical to all employees, right? So do you want to take it?
Sure. So see, understand the point which we made earlier is the same point, that until you have the policy in place, it's an informal communication. If the employees wants to enforce it, or you want that comfort to be there, it's not there, because the ESOP which you have offered is not under any scheme. Okay? And further, which you are doing is to give the comfort to the employee that we will reduce your vesting period, or we will do a accelerated vesting. So you can get the shares at a date earlier than the usual vesting period. Now, again, the challenge is, then whenever you are offering the ESOP under the ESOP scheme as per Companies Act, there's a minimum vesting of 1 year. You cannot give the employee shares within a month. You at least have to give 1 year period till the date they can exercise the first lot of shares. So that is something you need to take care of. And simultaneously, whenever we are offering ESOPs, mostly it's to the top management and employees who have been with the company for a very long period. So we usually prefer that always, in order to avoid any discrepancy between the employees and any discrepancy to the management, that some sort of ESOPs are given to some employees at certain rate and to others at a certain rate, giving advantage to some of the employees, we would always recommend that to a particular class of employees, the policy should be consistent. Giving a accelerated vesting is an option to the employees who have missed that period due to the fact that ESOP policy was not in place. So this is a situation where we would recommend that the ESOP policy should be in place prior to giving any engagement to the employees.
Also,
Noted.
this ESOP is effective. There are 3 documents you need to get signed from an employee. You need to offer a grant letter. You need to mandatorily offer an ESOP policy to the employee. And what is third, Rohit? You need to also have an agreement sort of signed, right?
Yes, so ESOP agreement and grant letters are part of the scheme. Whenever you are giving them, both of these documents are executed well in place.
This is needed if you're an ESOP policy. Auditor is going to ask about these documents when you go through the audit. And again, this thing, even the company which has formed the ESOP policy, this process gets missed, which is offering a grant letter along with the offer letter, or offer letter pehle de diya to abhi grant letter, and having an ESOP agreement. ESOP agreement is necessary condition, guys, because that defines the arrangement that you have agreed with an employee. I think, I'm not sure who asked the question, but the question that was asked, can we do it later on? I think the challenge is, in ESOP policy is generally uniform. It's a document which defines as a policy, as Rohit said, for a set of employees. Basically, you cannot create 10 customized ESOP policy. A ESOP policy would have certain standard term, which is exercise price, grant, vesting schedule, those kind of stuff, right? They need to be consistent. You can define कि मेरे को 5 लाख के ESOP देने हैं, 10 लाख के ESOP देने हैं, या 1 करोड़ के ESOP देने हैं. That is your discretion. But the terms of policy generally are not different. If you want to keep them different, you need to create another policy. So that's a basically challenge. Any other question? I'll get to more practical aspect.
Just a follow-up question on this, Devin. So you are speaking this in terms of Indian laws perspective, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
ESOP is a regulated segment, guys. It's a regulated by Company Act. Auditor also have to keep in this thing. So what I see is a lot of people actually make these issues, and often those issues get solved by basically ultimately you need to go an employee and tell कि यार ये थोड़ा गड़बड़ हो गया, इसको ऐसे ठीक कर रहे हैं. Because ultimately the person who gets impacted is not the company. Person who gets impacted is typically an employee.
So just one last thing. Do you have any idea on the US structure or any other international structure? Are the things similar, or it could be different slightly?
Principles would be similar, but I honestly would not have an idea. Rohit have a bit of idea, but I think he said that he need to leave at 12:30. Maybe he just left. So I can always connect and you can ask him. He generally have decent idea, so he may advise on that aspect.
Hi, Devendra. I have a question.
Sure, Ishan.
So we have done 2 unique things. I want to understand what is the general perception of that. So one is in the ESOP's vesting schedule. We've done that. Let's say you have X amount of shares allotted as ESOPs to you. So we've done your vesting is 10% of that value will be done in year 1, 20 in year 2, 30 in year 3, 40 in year 4, saying that as you grow in the company, your value also increases. And
Right.
that is first question. And the second one is we've only created an ESOP pool of 5%. So what are your first honest thoughts about it? As an entrepreneur, do I come across as greedy, strategic?
You will come across as a guy greedy. It's not recommended, Ishan.
Okay.
It's fair for entrepreneur. Okay? It's fair for, so let's say I define it, right? When an organization gets built up, every organization different. There are organizations which are high trust organization. There are organizations which are weaker trust organization, and they get defined by the industry segment. Industry segment is, if you are in a top industry segment, okay, you would be hiring people who are quite mature, who would value relationship over transactional thing, right? So that's one. Or you might be in a segment where attrition is pretty high, etc. And no matter how fair you are towards your employee, you may still want to have commercial obligation, which would entail that employee to stay, right? So commercially, this policy is fair for company, because it would ensure that company has that the employee has higher skin in the game, because if he leaves early, he leaves less, and phenomena is that he's also creating value over longer time. If you read the literature right? A lot of people, obviously, these are the people who have made out big, and they write it only after they have made out big. Okay, before that, they simply don't write it. So they will
Yeah.
typically argue two things. So if you ask, the fairest sort of policy, right, is 1 year cliff. After that, quarterly sort of vesting, or some people even go ahead and do a monthly sort of vesting because they say, hey, ESOP is more of a salary kind of thing, right? And 4 equal year. That's what I have, let's say I have seen. 10, 20, 30, 40 is people will consider, a prospective employee would consider, let's say this thing. Now, right now it will work, Ishan, when you are a Series A plus funded company and you are hiring people who are exposed to startups, okay? You would get a huge resistance to sell this ESOP policy to a prospective
Absolutely.
this thing. You said second thing as well, right? The one was the 10, 20, 30. And
Second is what is the percentage that is recommended? So we've currently created 5%, but I'm taking opinions.
Yeah, this is very, very interesting question. And this is a question I have fought most with the investor on behalf of entrepreneurs. And
Yeah.
little bit of theoretical, guys. Please bear with me because I tried to go with the first principle fundamental of finance when I negotiate with some of these guys. So when you think of a company, right? Company has two element. One is human resource, one is capital. Human resource is brought by founders and employees. Okay. Capital is brought by investors. In India, is there any investor here? I'm going to use a little bit of bad words for that. Okay. In India, investors use rights to benefit them. How they use? So standard rights which are used to benefit them are ROFR, ROFO. There are certain other rights a founder is supposed to sell during the exit. And fourth is कि यार इतना ESOP pool बनाएंगे which an employee needs to create before we coming in. So their argument is, hey, we should not be diluted. The problem is if there is an exit event before the ESOP pool is fully utilized, okay, that unutilized ESOP pool will go to every shareholder, which means if there's a 10% pool, if 5% 5% benefit will go to a share to investor. Why that should go? And it's an interesting question because if a company has to go multiple raises of rounds, right, the 5% pool, Ishan, is not sufficient pool. If you are going to be an ex-Flipkart, the 5% pool is not going to be sufficient practically. The reason for it is not going to be sufficient if you raise, let's say 3 or 4 rounds of capital or 4 rounds of capital every round at 20%, and if you do 1.2 wala math, 1.2 into 1.2, you'll get diluted by 50-60%, right? So the 5% pool becomes, let's say, 2% pool. So it's insufficient. What happens is the investor will say, create the pool before me. And the cycle, let's say first investor came, this is fine, only founder got diluted. When second investor comes, if you created a pool which is smaller, and the second investor says, create the pool before me, now founder are getting diluted, first investor get diluted. Yes. In third round happens, founder are getting diluted, first round, second round get diluted. I have seen deals getting fallen off on this thing because then first and second investor says, hey, I don't want to dilute, and founder needs to take a hit. And by company law, there's no way you can dilute one class of share and not other class of share. There are ways, technical ways, but those are complex ways. Okay, so that typically challenge happens. Founder's argument at first round is, why the hell I create a very large pool, right? Because why do I need to get diluted? Because ultimately, if you create instead of 5% pool, a 10 or 15% pool, the valuation basically gets adjusted by that. Our suggestion and solution for that has been, and we have argued and successfully, now it's like 100% track record of winning this argument in favor of the founder is, hey, we suggest founder create a large enough pool which will ensure that you are good for 3 rounds, like Series A, Series B, Series C, because some company may not need more capital than that. So we'll typically say create a pool of, let's say, 10% pre-round or 10% post-round. 1 second, guys. We also argue that if there is an exit event happen when there is a accelerated...
Could not hear you. We lost your voice.
Hello?
We lost it.
Yeah, I muted myself. There was a background noise. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So what we
say... You were talking about some percentage and you're talking...
Yeah, I'm repeating again, Vitesh. Let me repeat again. So what we found, this is a very interesting question. What we say, we request founder to create a large pool, like 10% or pre in the first round itself, pre or post this thing, but with very condition that if there is a exit event happening anytime when the pool is not fully utilized, the entire equity which is unvested would come back to founders. It no condition, when write explicitly, in no condition it would ever go to any investor. Basically what it ensures that you created a pool. So it's like this, right? You can create whatever pool, 10%, 15%, 17%, 20%, right? As long as you are sure that the pool, whatever additional equity that you diluted on the day one, that's coming back to you, right? Because then the question of this dilution, this whole negotiation around dilution gets sorted forever. And we've seen companies like Redbus getting impacted because of these clauses, where investors benefited either at the expense of entrepreneur or at the expense of employees. Relationship even employees as well as founder during the exit event. Imagine you have a great guy who has been working and he's worked for 11 months and the exit event happened and he has a large ESOP, but because it happened just 1 month before, right? His shares are not vested. Investor would be on heels to say कि यार नहीं vest हुआ तो नहीं दो. Unvested share यदि हमको आ रहे हैं. And those kind of things needs to be taken care in your first agreement itself. So my recommendation, Ishan, is create a large enough pool, which is a reasonable pool, but add conditions in which case it would always come back to promoters, would not go to investors.
Got it. Thanks. Makes perfect sense. Thank you.
I'll also add one more thing. A lot of investors, this is not ESOP, but related thing. Same thing should be done whenever investors are asking for founder vesting as well. Okay, which is a standard clause, but you should try to negotiate same thing in that case. I can cover that separately. I'll come to Avinash. I'm overshooting time. Please let me know how much time I have, and then I'll probably pause after that.
Sure, I have. I think on behalf of everybody, I have one. Sorry, Mitesh has a question. Let's cover one last question and then one question from myself about ESOPs, and then we can move to the next session. Mitesh.
So yeah, Devendra, what we have done actually.
Before I'll summarize my thoughts.
Yeah, sure. So Devendra, what we have done is actually that we have got a ESOP pool, and then we have got an advisory pool and founder vesting, and but the ESOP and advisory pool together is 15%, and then of that we have allocated 3% for advisors and for 12% for employees. Is that sufficient enough?
That's a pretty much sufficient, Mitesh. But I have one to discuss कर लेना. Executing advisory pool as per the Company Act is going to be very tough.
No, yeah. So my lawyer actually उसने वो अलग से pool ने वो directly grant करते हैं.
Mitesh, one to one कर लें. That will be a very specific question. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'll just cover 2-3 points very quickly. So one question.
Just one question. Sorry, Dev. Just one question to you before that. Have you seen any example of or any case in which ESOPs have also given voting rights to employees? That's not usually done, but have you seen any example? I have not seen, but therefore I want to know from you.
So technically, whatever I know, and Rohit is not here, but otherwise he's the best person to answer. Voting rights can be attached to shares, not to options. Okay. So technically, some people may say that hey, voting right would also be there for options during the agreement, but I don't think that's contractually enforceable, Vinash. Once the ESOP is converted to shares, then only the employee can have voting right.
And as far as the shares, after the exercise event, what percentage of ventures you've seen give voting rights to those shares versus those who don't? I mean, is it mostly you've seen that they give voting rights
mostly,
in the policy?
What happens is people at Series A, Series B do give it. Later on, when the cap table become pretty complex, okay, then people tend to avoid it. Then there's a deed of adherence, a lot of stuff come. I'll just cover a few things, guys. One very important debate, which is something you should keep in mind. What happens when an employee leaves, right? As per the law, exercise period of an employee can be 5-year, 10-year, pretty long time frame. What we've seen in India is 6-month time frame or 5-year time frame. 2 time frame I've seen. Both the time frame are inadequate from the employee perspective, because if employee exercises, he needs to pay a tax, and most employee would not be in the position to pay the tax if the company has done well. I think this will always lead to debate, direct one-to-one heated conversation. As a founder, you should try to aim for solve it. It's a difficult question because once the employee exercises, he retains the share as well. And sometimes if the employee has left on not so good term, you may want to control that part as well. So all those questions, this is an important topic. Those who want can ping me one-to-one, or we can schedule another session. This is an important topic which should be solved. I see a lot of unicorn or a lot of Sonycon startup coming to me, their employees coming to me and asking for an exit. And even you should solve for their exit as well. It's good to sort of solve for that. That's one. Second, I think there's a question, what sort of equity should be given in early stage of startup? I would have three thought process, guys. How you are thinking of an employee? Are you thinking of employee as a founder, closer to founder, which is a wealth creation sort of opportunity, or are you thinking of an employee as an employee, which in the case, ESOP acts as a salary replacement? In both the cases, how you give or what quantum equity you give, let's say, remain different. And that sort of becomes a major sort of thought process, how you should think of ESOP. One question is exercise price. I've seen people setting exercise price as 10 rupee face value. I've seen people setting up last round price, etc. Again, same thought process really comes there. What exactly should be provided? And one question is, what happens if you're hiring an employee which is like pretty highly valued, 1 crore kind of CTO who is working? For example, let's say, I don't know how they have done that. Let's say this company, apne Ayush IIT Bombay ka banda run kar raha hai, right? He hired ex-Swiggy Rahul Jetli as a co-founder, right? I don't know how he would have done that. But that's a separate case. But if you're hiring a very celebrated sort of guy, right? A very costly guy, how you have to take care of his equity structure is again a complex question, which we can deal separately. So those are questions that we can deal separately. Anybody who has a question can ping me directly over the chat, and we can take care. I'll be here for the Avinash session, and post that session as well. I'm happy to take any questions as well. With that, I'll take a pause, but happy to answer any question post that Avinash session. Okay. And I think one more thing, last thing I want to say. Ultimately, at some level, ESOP is nothing but a commercial discussion between an employee and a company. And there are people who are trying to solve this whole ESOP and the constraint imposed by Company Act, etc., in a more innovative structure and commercial way. Avinash, who has been an ex-colleague, a very, very senior entrepreneur, is trying to take an aim to that. It's a new thought, and do hear him what he says. I find the thought and the whole thought process design pretty interesting. But any interesting idea gets an acceptance when the entire community, both founder and employee, find it attractive. So I'll let Avinash take it ahead with this, and Avinash can explain what he's trying to design at Venex. Avinash, over to you.